Kalkalosh Boker or Bekiim Bahalacha 3, day 26, page 49, Siman Zayin, Halacha Tetvav 15. מי ששכח לברך ברכת אשר יצר אם נזכר בתוך שעה וחמישית אחר שעשה צרכיו רשאי לברך אשר יצר בשם מלכות. Right, what does that mean? If a first person forgot to say Asher Yatzar and it already passed 72 minutes, that's sha'ah v'chamishit, 1 hour and a fifth of an hour. How much is a fifth of an hour? Right? A fifth of an hour is going to be the 12 minutes. Because 12 minutes is an hour is 60 minutes, so therefore 1/5 is going to be 12 minutes. So therefore after 72 minutes, right, he says, if you remember within the 72 minutes, he's allowed to make Asher Yatzar, right, b'shem malchut, but afterwards he's going to make the bracha without Shem Malchut, b'safek brachot le'akel. That is the famous shita of Rabbi Yosef. Right? Let's see number 319. Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai was posek that if half an hour passed since the time that someone relieved themselves, he cannot say Asher Yatzar with the Shem Malchut. Instead, he should say without Shem Malchut. Right? He says, Rav Menachem Lonzano, cited by the Rav Chida, ruled that the time limit for reciting the blessing of Asher Yatzar is somewhat less than an hour. So again, one more time. You have the Ben Ish Chai Chetzi Shah, half an hour. You have the Rabbi Menachem Lonzano, but he says it's a little bit less than an hour. He doesn't say how much less, but a little bit less than an hour. The Yad Aaron comes and he says, there's no limit. Mamash, whenever you remember, you just say Asher Yatzar. Yeah, he argued that this is not like Birkat Hamazon, which is limited to the time one's food has been digested. The Rabbi Chida ruled it in favor of Rabbi Menachem Lonzano, explained that the Mahariya Kohen likewise ruled that after some time is by one may no longer recite it. So basically, Tisakel, Yeshacha. We didn't even see the Rav Ovadia yet. Where did he get his 72 minutes yet? Right? But what did we see now? Chetzi Shah, half an hour, then Ishchai. Rabbi Menachem Lonzano, just under an hour. He doesn't say how much. He just says it's going to be somewhat less than an hour, a little bit less than an hour. You've got no time limit. Shamamash, Zodman Enzman. No, because lechatchila you have to do it after the time that you just did it, but there's no time limit on it. Meaning that even if I remember 3 hours later, as long as I don't need to go again, there's no problem. Do it again. Yeah, you have to go again. One second. That we learned yesterday. That was yesterday already. That according to Maran you would do it twice, and according to us we only do it once. The Chesed Alafim ruled that the time limit is half an hour. Okay, remember that the Chesed Alafim is Rabbi Eliezer Papo, the Peliyuetz. So he said like the Ben Ish Chai, Chetzi Shah. Okay, and that's also the Birkat Yosef Yedid. By the Penei Yitzchak Abulafia and the Kavachim Sofer. The Zichronot Eliyahu Mani wrote in the name of Rav Abdallah Somech, which is the rabbi of the Ben Ish Chai, that since the Rav Chida wrote that the limit is some time, it means at least 18 minutes. In halachic matters, there's no time span right shorter than this, he explained. So to a minute, Hazman achi pachot shematzanu ze mil b'derech klal. Mil, right, which is one, it's not really a mile, it's more of a kilometer, but the mil is 18 minutes, right, to do with Chametz and Pesach, to do with all the things that we always do of Bino Ben Eshvashot, 3/4 of a meal. It's always going to be according to a meal. So the meal is 18 minutes. So he says, so it's going to be 18 minutes. But again, did you see that all these people, whether it's the Peliyuetz, the Birkat Penei Yitzchak Abulafia, Kavachim Sofer, all these people, they're coming and they're saying the what? There's mamash Chetzi Shah, like the Ben Ish Chai. Okay? So why did the Ben Ish Chai and other poskim choose Chetzi Shah? Where does it come from? Right? Well, why half an hour? Right? Well, what did they choose half an hour? So the Rishon LeZion suggested that it's because it's the midin samuch, right? Remember that whenever we have din of samuch, it's always chetzi shah. The term close in halachic matters it always means half an hour, right? For example, last night, yeah, you only do birkat kohanim if you pray mincha samuch lashkia. What is samuch? Half an hour. Meaning, if I'm going to pray an hour before shkia, let's say I do plug. And I'm not going to eat. I'll wait for the fast, meaning the fast, but I'm going to pray Mincha Arvit early. So I'm going to pray Mincha Arvit early, and then we go home. But okay, you're not going to eat until later on. Yeah, you don't do Birkat Kohanim because Birkat Kohanim can only be done in the Tefillah Hasmucha LeShkia, which means that it's only if it's going to be within half an hour of Shekia. The reason why is because obviously, why don't you do Birkat Kohanim during Mincha? Because you're eating, right? You might get drink, right? You might get drunk. So what happens? So because of that, they said that on a fast day, nobody's eating. So you're allowed to do that. But that's only if it's going to be the tefillah, which is going to be during mincha, which is going to be samuch to the thing. Because again, if it's going to be samuch l'shkia, but if not, then it's like a regular mincha during the day that you do. Then a regular weekday, you do at 2 o'clock. You don't do the, right? During that time, you have the gezerah. Yeah? The takana is only mincha smucha. Yeah? And by the way, that's the reason why you only do it on Ni'ilah and you don't do it on Minchav Kippur. Why? Because it's only the tefillah smucha. We learned this in Kiyam Masechta, for those that were actually paying attention in Kiyam Masechta that actually came. So therefore, there was written, it's always going to be the tefillah smucha. So that's why on Ta'anit, we write on the Kippur, we're only going to do on when? Ni'ilah. We don't do it on Mincha. Because it's only the tefillah which is the closest to the end of the Shekiah. Okay? Fine. So here, he says samuch, meaning, if you have a din of samuch that you have to make Asher Yatzar samuch when you just went to the washroom, so samuch is chetzi shah. That's it. The Be'er Moshe ruled that a person may say the beracha up to 2 hours after relieving himself, or until he has the urge to do it again. He brings the opinion of the Kavachim, but he dismissed it as incorrect. Well, Shlomo Zalman likewise followed the Shulchan Aruch's ruling that there's no real time limit for the blessing. But he concluded that if so much time has passed and no longer remembers the experience of relieving himself, then he can't say it again. So again, a lot of people, they go like Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch didn't put a time limit. He just said, after going to the washroom, you make a bracha. That's it. כן? זאת אומרת, מיד כאילו אחר כך, וזהו. אז אפילו שעה, שעתיים אחר כך, מה הבעיה? תעשה את זה. Okay? The Rishon LeZion, we're on page 50, the Rishon LeZion, he said the Ritva. So basically, Rav Ovadia is basing himself upon a Ritva. The Ritva comes and he explains the Gemara's ruling. For Netilat Yadayim, you have 72 minutes. As referring to someone who relieved himself and has no water with which to clean your hands afterwards. As long as he finds water and he cleans his hands within 72 minutes, he might still say Asher Yatzar. Since it's not a blessing of a mitzvah that enable him to eat or to drink. This is a blessing to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore the time limit is extended. The Shalom demonstrated that this is a clear ruling that one may say the bracha until 72 minutes. If the Achronim had known the Ritva's rulings, they would have concurred for it. And therefore he says 72 minutes. In the responsa, right, the Maran and Shalom refuted the ruling of Or Letzion, who allowed only half an hour. So it means the Or Letzion went like the Ben Ish Chai, like everybody else. But look how many people do you have. You have the Ben Ish Chai, you have the Pele Yoetz, right? You have the Or Letzion, you have the Kavachim Sofer, you have the Penei Yitzhak Abulafia, what was it? Penei Yitzhak Abulafia, Yobikat Yosef Yodid. Look how many people. Right? And then you have also the Rav Chida that, okay, it's not going to be half an hour, but it's less than an hour. That's the Rabbi Menachem Lonzano. Right? So look how many shitot that you have that it's actually going to be. So Rav Ovadia came and he said, no, he refuted it. He said, no, he's saying Safeh Berachol HaKel does not apply in this case. Why? Because if they would have seen the Ritva, they would have done it. Safeh Berachol HaKel. That's Rav Ovadia's strongest thing usually. Safeh Berachol HaKel. He says, no. Why? They would have seen the Ritva. Now, some scholars, they challenge the ruling of the Rishon LeZion. They said that the Ritva did not issue a ruling of how long one could postpone the bracha. They claimed the Ritva was only speaking about how long one must wait to find water to wash the hands after relieving yourself. Rav David Yosef refuted this argument soundly in the Lechabrura. The response of Divrei Shalom argued on the ruling based on the Marach or Zarua that I asked my mentor Rabbeinu Me'in, how long can you say the bracha? And he says, pointing out that this is not going to be compared to Birkat Hamazon, for there's a limit, right? Which means that until a person becomes hungry, that one feels the benefit of the food that he's eaten. These criteria do not apply to the blessing of Asher Yatzar. So the Rebbe Shalom used this proof that the Rishonim did not necessarily agree with the Ritva. So to admit it, almost everybody argues on Rav Ovadia by the way, on this halacha. Yeah, almost everybody. So here you have also this Divrei Shalom that he said 1 second. There's another Rishon, right? The Marach or Zarua. And the Marach or Zarua says Mefurash. It's not compared to Birkat Hamazon. Huh? No. Okay, Kulam are arguing on Rav Ovadia afterwards, right? The Ritva came way before all those other people, right? But the Marach or Zarua was at the same time. No, Shel Ritva, Rishon Gam. So therefore, they all argue on Rav Ovadia because they say, 1 second, here you have a proof, right, that it's not true. So therefore, he comes and he says that Rishon LeZion was fully aware of this passage. He even mentioned in his response. So he felt that the Ritva, it was like, Kilu, he admitted that it was still like that. The Birkat Hashem rule based on the same passage of the Ritva, the one may recite the blessing until 72 minutes, right? As long as one does not feel the urge to do it. Here, Maran Rishon LeZion refuted this, explaining that this is not correct understanding the Ritva's words, right? And again, Yalkut Yosef obviously, likewise did the exact same thing. Okay, so basically, again, you've got a huge machloket, right? The majority of Achronim actually they go against Rav Ovadia, and they're actually going Lechumra. They're not going Lekula, and therefore Saveh Berachol HaKel. So again, you have it. Now, what happens though if again you feel the urge to relieve yourself in less than 72 minutes? Because until now we were talking about you have more. Now, one more time, you have a Shita Maran, but there's no time limit. You have the Shita of the other ones that it's Chetzi Shah. Then you have the Ritva or the Ritva way, the way according to Rav Ovadia is learning it, 72 minutes. What happens if you have to actually go to the washroom again within the 72 minutes? So he says if someone postponed and saying the Asher Yatzar, but by this time again he needed to go to the washroom again, he may no longer recite it again. This is a ruling of the Shelat Yavetz. He explained that this compared to be a person that ate a meal and then again became hungry right before saying Birkat Hamazon. In such a case, again, he can't say Birkat Hamazon. This is likewise the ruling of the Shalom Tzibur in the name of the Rav Eliezer Nahum, the Mishabra, and the Kaf Chaim Sofer. זאת אומרת, אם בתוך ה-72 דקות you can't do it. So sometimes you know when this can happen. You went to the washroom during Pesach Zimra. There's a whole machloket, right? Are you allowed to make the bracha of Asher Yatzar afterwards? Some people say you could say it after Yishtabach, and some people say you're not allowed to do it after Yishtabach. Why? Because you went to the washroom, but you're not allowed to talk until then. So do it at the end of the Amidah. Meaning after the Amidah, you come and you say Asher Yatzar. Right? So therefore, you went to the washroom, you completely forgot. Right? What does it mean you forgot? Meaning at the beginning, you weren't going to do the bracha in there anyway. It comes now the tefillah, we had a long tefillah. Right after the tefillah, you got a little bit distracted, and all of a sudden, right, you're 40 minutes later, or whatever it is, we just finished Shachrit, and all of a sudden you come and I have an urge to go to the washroom again. And hey, I didn't do Asher Yatzar. Boom, you can't do it again. Yeah, you can't do the bracha of Asher Yatzar. Why? Because you have to go to the washroom again. So therefore, that was a psak, right? No, yeah, but you lost the bracha. כן, אבל זה אם אתה לא צריך ללכת בתוך ה-72 דקות עוד פעם. Right? Again, we're talking about a case where you need to go again, בתוך ה-72 דקות.
אז אתה פותר על הראשון.
לא, אז זה מה שאומר, אבל הפסדת ברכה, מה זאת אומרת אתה פותר? יפה מאוד. אז גם כן, שכחתי ברכת המזון, אתה לא יכול לברך ברכת המזון, תברך ברכת המזון אחר כך, יפה, אבל הפסדת ברכת המזון.
מה אתה רוצה? לפי הרב עובדיה, נגיד שאתה...
לא, זה לא לפי הרב עובדיה, רב עובדיה לא מדבר על זה בכלל. אנחנו אמרנו, לפי שיטת רב עובדיה, that he comes and he says, you have 72 דקות, אם בתוך 72 דקות אתה צריך עוד פעם, אתה לא יכול לברך. זהו, לא אמרנו כלום, זה לא חולק, אל תדאג, אתה לא צריך להיפגע. הוא לא חולק על רב עובדיה. זה פשוט, זה לפי שיטת כולם. הלכה ט"ז, אוקיי? אם לא בירך ברכת אשר יצא ונזכר בשעה שהוא צריך שוב לנקבה, אפילו שעבר זה רק זמן קצר משעה שעשה צרכיו בפעם הקודמת, לא יברך אשר יצא, אלא רק לאחר שיחזור ויעשה צרכיו וייטול ידיו. Yeah? So I don't know why this one we just did, there was a mistake in the footnote. Because this should have been on the 320 should have been on the one before, because we just gave the answer. So the 320 should have been one above. It doesn't matter, but okay, fine. So 320. The Moruxi explained that once a person feels the urge to relieve himself again, this automatically signals the end of the time that it is possible to say the Beracha Asher Yatzar for the previous time he relieved himself. The Pri Megadim, however, ruled that in this case, the person should recite the blessing before relieving himself the second time, and then after relieving the second time, repeat the Beracha. Heventet the Pri Megadim. The Pri Megadim says, do it twice. Do it right now. Go to the washroom and then do it again. Kud Yosef, he challenges this. Vazul says it's forbidden because when you have to make a bracha, you're not allowed to make. When you have to, if you want to make a bracha, you're not allowed to make a bracha if you go to the washroom. Yeah. So he says the Shemen HaMaor, he reconciled this, explaining the Pri Megadim is referring to a case where you don't have a strong urge, right? So as long as you could still technically hold yourself in for 72 minutes, you could still make the bracha. Meaning you need to go, but you could probably hold yourself in for 72 minutes. So the Kaf HaChaim, right, inferred from the Magen Avraham, and in practice, there's no need to say the bracha twice. Instead, relieve yourself a second time, then you can make a bracha once, and that's it. The Kaf HaChaim ruled that it is preferred procedure based on Safeh Bracha Lakel, and that's what the Rishon LeZion says as well. Safeh Bracha Lakel, and therefore you're only going to make one bracha, right, without any problem.